Welcome, everybody. Good morning.
Good
I,
morning.
I wanted to remove me because last time it kept putting my video over all of my slide titles, and I wanted to make sure that today I didn't have that happen again. For the people who weren't on the original one, they may not, they may not have been able to follow along, or for the people who were just looking at the pictures. So thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be talking about how to turn a crisis into an opportunity. I think that all of us have been faced with crisis, maybe not quite like the one we are in today, but we all have had some crisis in our life that we've had to deal with. Sometimes it's a little hard to remember how you made your way through that. But as I was sitting down going through pictures, I came across a picture, and it was actually this lovely picture, which was March 13th, 1993, or better known as the Blizzard of 1993 in Birmingham, Alabama. And for some of you who live up in the north or up, outside of the southern states here, you may think that this is no big deal. A little bit of snow, but 2 feet of snow and 8-foot snow drifts are a huge deal to Southerners like me, who had never seen this amount of snow ever in my life when it happened. And it was a really big deal. In fact, it was such a big deal that we were stuck for 7 days and no power. It actually took about 9 days for us to fully recover. And some people in some parts of the city still didn't have power, but we did at my property that I was working at the time. I was a very green manager, and I was living on the property, so it was all kinds of challenges that I was faced with. But I wanted to share the story of actually kind of what happened through this and how I used just some tools that I had learned through different workshops that I had been in, and that all kind of came back to me, and I'm like, oh, we could totally use this today in what we're doing. And so some of the challenges that we were faced with on my property was, like I said, 2 foot of snow, 8-foot snow drifts. We had no power. We had no grocery stores open anywhere around us. If they had been, it would have been great, because if we hadn't had the 2 foot of snow, we could have walked to the grocery store from where our property was. But no grocery stores open, and the roads were impassable for 4 days. And I mean, you couldn't even get a 4-wheel drive down through them. You can see the cars are buried in the snow. We didn't have snow shovels at the property that were there for people to dig their cars out of at the time. We did have shovels. I just didn't exactly know where they were. So there was some phone calls that had to be made to maintenance along the way. But I also did not have a maintenance supervisor nor a maintenance tech at my property to assist us through any of these challenges that, we were facing. We were very fortunate, though, because we did have wood burning fireplaces, so we were able to keep warm if we had wood. And of course, you could just throw a cooler outside and throw all your meat in there, and it's not going to go bad out of the refrigerator. So we had that. And then also, we were allowed at that time to have gas grills on our balconies. So we were able to, cook. We also had some of the gas grills throughout the community that people could go and cook on if they could get to them. And get the snow off of them and away from them, then we were, doing well there. But one of the first things that I knew that we were in a major emergency situation here. And so I immediately thought, what do I need to do first? What can I do first? And immediately I thought about all of my neighbors who lived around me in my building. So I went and I started knocking on the doors and, you know, making sure that everybody had food and they had some wood. If they didn't have any wood, I had some extra wood that I was, you know, willing to allow them to come and get some from us. But luckily, my building was pretty good. So we all decided that we were going to spread out and we were going to go to the other buildings. And there was a problem. We couldn't get to the other buildings because of the snow drifts, and it was just like walking into a wall. And so we had to come up with another plan. Luckily, my company had told me long ago to have an emergency directory at my home in case there was an emergency, to be able to contact all of my all of my residents, because this is back the time before the time that we had all of this automation that we have now. It was 1993, remember? It's a little different time back then, but we you know, all started calling the people who we knew in the other buildings and trying to assign team captains to go and check on everybody else and then report back to make sure that everybody was okay. There was also another really big problem, and that was that this hit right in the middle of spring break for all of my law students who had left. Most of them had left to go for spring break, and when they left, it was 70 degrees. So I was very concerned about pipes bursting, and I was also very scared that if we had a fire or a medical emergency, that the chances of the fire department or an ambulance reaching us were pretty much slim to none for the next 4 days. However, my gut told me that I had to soldier through it. I had to be resourceful, and I had to do all of this because I had residents who were panicking within my community, and I needed to help them. So the next thing I did, and I think that this will help all of you as you have been going through and continue to go through these issues, and that is, you know, to prioritize your problems and tackle one of them at a time. You know, you don't have time to fear. You have to take action and ride it through until you just can't, you know, go anymore. And then when you can't go on that item, then you've got to move to the next one. So like with me, I made this great little graph here, and I just kind of put the why I can't and how I could or how I can do something. So for me, it was I couldn't get to my office. I couldn't get to the other residents because the snow was blocking the drive. We couldn't walk through it. And it was like walking into a mountain. Literally, we were walking into a mountain of snow. So I did realize, though, that we lived on a hill that went down to the road that went down to the office. So I figured, oh, well, I can get one of these cardboard boxes out of the storage closet, and we can sled down on the cardboard boxes. Yeah, that doesn't work either because the cardboard gets all wet and the snow was too thick. And so then we had to go to the next thing, which was the top of the trash can. So we ended up finding a way to get there, but we did it. And then I knew also there was no power and there would be no telephones in the office because our telephones were all either cordless or they were operated off of a switchboard type system, you know, that had to have electricity to work. So didn't have that. So I did remember to put a little non-cordless phone in my backpack to take down to the office to plug in to the wall to be able to use. Also knew the maintenance couldn't get to the property, so I knew I had to get to work with myself and the others to make something happen. But, you know, there were all these things. I prioritized them. I put them into what I could tackle, what I couldn't, and we moved on from that. And I found that you can always find a gift in the struggle. It just may be hard to see, you know, at that time, but if you do prioritize them, you will find yourself being able to move past. Oops. Let's go to, you know, and also I couldn't let go of what I couldn't do at the time. You know, you basically, as this says, don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do. Because there's, you know, always a way. Just like today, in the past, people used to come into our office and we used to have those critical conversations with residents in person in our office, and we can't do that today. However, what can we do? Anybody? Anybody want to chime in? What can we do?
What, you mean what else can we do?
What else can we do if we can't meet with them in person and we need to have a critical conversation with someone that it needs to be face to face? What could we do?
Well, you got that duo junk and all that other stuff y'all do fancy on the phones. I mean, I'll tell you what I do every morning. I get up and I go to the same breakfast house I always go to. I go to the drive-thru. I back up over there. I eat my breakfast. And I sit there in the car, and in between customers that normally call me, I'm making calls, and I'm calling customers through my customer list day by day. And then I drive around 11:30. I'll find me another lunch place, and I drive over there to the drive-thru, and I get my lunch, and I back up, and I eat my lunch, and I sit there, and I do my calls again. And then somewhere between 3:30 to 4:30, I head to the house, and I sit in my driveway until I get through. And that's what I've been doing, and that's my day, and that's how I'm surviving. I can't sit in the house like y'all. I can't deal with dogs in the background and all that noise. And the reason I don't stay in my yard most of the time is because my wife, as a matter of fact, as of right now, I did come home. I'm sitting in my driveway, and my wife's sitting up here on the hill drinking coffee looking at me. So my day's better spent in my office, in my car, in various places, and it's working for me. So that's my take.
Well done.
Sounds like what it was before this started.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, and I know I can't see y'all because I don't know how to Zoom. I'm not a computer guru, but I do have this phone, and evidently y'all can hear me.
We can. It's really easy to Zoom, but I'll teach you, Eldon. I'll Zoom with you on an off one that we can get together on. Oh my goodness. But okay, so do we have anything in the chat? It looks like we have a couple of chats in here. Erin, can you read off anything that we may have in the chat if it's important?
FaceTime.
All the chats and
yes, I will.
Oh, okay.
So far, just one comment from Michael.
So we can try to Skype or FaceTime a conference call if you're not too technically challenged. Yep, exactly. So we do have those wonderful tools now today that, you know, technology tools that can fill in those gaps where we used to not have those. So, you know, also for that maintenance request that might come in, a filter change, our you know, properties, they can all go and make a little video of how to change that air filter and how to make sure that the air filter is pointing in the right direction and all, and put that in. Of course, that is if they don't have to have a screwdriver, or they have a screwdriver, should I say. But, you know, bottom line, it's times like this when you're allowed to let your genius shine, if you'll let it. Be inventive. Get out of what you know and go and find a new solution to your problem. We don't have to always do, in fact, we probably wouldn't be finding a solution to our problem of these COVID testing and treatments if, you know, somebody didn't get out of what they knew and move to something new. So I challenge you all to get out of what you know and to move to something new and learn something new during this time. Because it really is in the midst of a challenge where I know that I found my calling. And I know that each one of you can find your calling usually during a challenge. Think about what skills you're using maybe for the first time that you found you're really good at. You know, for those of you who are on site, maybe you're finding that you're really great with your communication and marketing skills, or actually there's some people on here even within the Chadwell family that they may be finding that they're really good at that. Or maybe you're great at getting bids on capital improvements or scheduling of all of the property improvements that now are being done during this time because you're slower and you have that time to put that together. Usually that would be handled by someone else who was, you know, higher than you. So it's a great time to get out there and do those things and think about what it is that you enjoy about that. You know, take the opportunity to stand out and discover new opportunities you may have never considered before. And who knows what beautiful destination that you may discover from it. Did we have somebody else who popped up before I go forward? I believe I had a little chat that came up. Erin, did another chat come in that we needed to deal with?
You're good. Everyone was just offering how they could unmute themselves.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's move forward then. So, speaking of gifts and packages and learning and challenges, so remember some of the best gifts come in the ugliest packages, which for me, it was this package, which was 1.5 feet of water in my clubhouse during that blizzard of 1993. And that lovely site came from a shower in the pool area busting and sending water back through because the shower line and the dishwasher, I guess the plumbing line for the dishwasher were kind of the same thing. So water was gushing in through the dishwasher in our clubhouse. And when 2 days after, you know, we finally started being able to move around and shovel out and all of that good stuff, and I was able to use the top of the garbage can to get down the hill to my office, I opened the door and there was 1.5 feet of water in there. And it started just, you know, pouring out all over the place. And I knew I didn't have a maintenance person to take care of this for me. And so, you know, if it was gonna be cleaned up, it was gonna have to be cleaned up by me and my husband, who actually took that wonderful journey down the road with me that day, just thinking that we were just going to the office just to check things out and get some coffee from there. But no, we walked into the water. So immediately I started to assess the situation with him, and I went running to because we figured out the water had to have been coming in from somewhere, and my husband figured out it was coming in from the dishwasher area. And so I ran to find the community binder that told where all of the water shutoffs were, and also we could get the water shut off to the clubhouse area. And meanwhile, he was calling my maintenance supervisor to find out what kind of tools he was going to need to get that taken care of. So he called them, and we got the water shut off, and we started opening every door and every window, and yes, windows, because our windows were like 6 foot off the ground. So we opened those up, and we started getting the water out, started pressing the water, pushing the water out with brooms and mops and everything that we could find. And then along comes my residents, and my residents were kind of, what's going on here? Oh, office open. And so they all start coming in. Well, as they started coming in, I just started handing them brooms and mops and buckets. And then my courtesy officer, he came walking down, and he went back in the shop and found the generator, and luckily it had a little bit of gas in it, and found the shop vac, and was able to, once we got the water off the floors, was able to start getting the water out of all of the other materials. But it was, a long day. However, I felt like that it allowed for my residents to become much more invested in the property and to feel that sense of community. And most of them ended up living there until I left the property, and some of them probably continue to live there today. But they, it got their mind off the fact that they had little food, little wood in their apartments, which, by the way, we lost lots of trees that year on our property from the people who decided to cut down some trees for some wood. But, we all pitched in together, and that's what it's all about, is that you're not helpless. We just need to work through a process to find the solution, to how we help one another through it. And one of the best ways to get through the battle is to realize that you're not in it alone. And today, none of you are in this alone. We're all in it together. I know you see it on every commercial, and you've probably, heard it in every communication that's come out from your companies, but it's true. I think that crises sometimes are made to bring us together. But we're talking about not only the opportunity to bring us together, but we're talking about other opportunities as well. And today I want you to take this opportunity to identify your people. Ask yourself, who are those that not only can help me, but you can also help them? Who is it within your organization that right now needs your help? Whether it may be somebody who's way above you, it may be someone who's at the same level as you, that's a peer. It could be somebody who's at a lower level than you, but who is it who needs your help? And also at this time, you should be thinking about, who is it that I need in my corner to help move me up in my career, or move me up to whatever it is that I want to accomplish in life. Take a pause and think about that. And then find a way that you can help that person who you kind of need to have your back, right? Because helping them will not only help to develop a relationship with them, but it's also will help you stand out and help you get to that next level that you want to be at. And then you also need to ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this crisis? Take a moment, just a minute, and reflect on this and write it down. What am I supposed to learn? What is it that I can learn that will help further me in my career or on this journey called life? What is it that you can realize about yourself that will help you make the changes that you need to make to become a better version of you? I know y'all hear me talk about this for those who have been on a lot of these virtual lunches with me, but there's a group called Apartment Maintenance and Management Support on Facebook. And it's wonderful to see all of the great stories that everybody is posting on there about what they're doing in their properties and all of the fabulous things. And one day there was a girl who was on there, and she was even talking about how this problem resident all of a sudden was super nice to her now, you know, with all of this going on. And, you know, sometimes it's things like this that bring out the best in people, and it's also times that bring out the worst in people. But hopefully this is a time that will bring out the best in you and will be a learning time for you to realize those things that you do need to work on, because there are, just as she had a good experience, there are other people who are on there complaining about the fact that, you know, they have to be at their offices and that they're, you know, there. So, you know, think about these things and ask yourself, who am I meant to serve by the person that I'm becoming through this challenge? You know, are you on that right seat of the bus within your organization? Are you right with the organization that you're with? Is there a better seat that you're more suitable for? I mean, I could have found through what I went through of that blizzard and all of the problems that we were faced with. I just gave you, you know, a little synopsis of the 7 days. We'd be here all week if I had to go through the whole week again with you, but I know you have better things to do. And, you know, I could have found that I wasn't good at managing challenges. I could have realized that I don't need to be the one who's in charge of this property. But instead, I found that I was not only good at handling the challenge, I actually rallied during that time, that I was good at it. I could handle challenges. So, you know, don't just face the challenges, but learn, grow, and serve through it. It'll make a greater difference in the end when you do. And imagine tomorrow's successes today. This is something that I love to do. I envision the victory. I write it down somewhere that I can see it. I write down, and I do this all the time. I do this with my goals, like where do I want to be? What do I want to do after this is all over with? And I write it down and I put it somewhere that I can see. Now, I happen to journal, so it's in my journal. It's also on my, if it's a really important thing that I need to be reminded of every day, I write it down on my mirror, and then that way I can look at it when I'm getting dressed in the mornings. But, you know, write it down and then live in that space and work towards creating a positive environment for those that are around you, you know, helping them out, helping them along, all of those things. And then when you envision the victory, it gives you the fuel to get through another day, because I know that a lot of these days are very challenging. For us, we're learning new things. We're having to do things in different ways than we've ever done them before. We're having to deal with family members. We're having to deal with residents. We're having, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are depending on you. And so, you know, if you can just envision those victories, it should help you to get through to the next day. And then in time, you're going to see that silver lining to whatever the current situation is. And usually when I take the time to reflect, I find that when things seem like they're going to fall apart, they actually usually are falling into place. So, I mean, if you can just think for a moment and think about a time that maybe in the past you were passed over for a promotion only to get promoted to a even better position at, you know, for the people who are on the property side of this, you know, maybe you're passed over for a manager's position of a property, and then 6 months later, you were finally promoted and you got an even better property than you would have gotten if you had taken that first one that you were so upset that you were passed over for. So, you know, just realize that sometimes when we think that everything is falling apart, it's actually just falling into place. But most importantly, as John Gordon says, focus on what you get to do. There are people out there that don't have the opportunity to work through this pandemic, and all of us do. Or I would assume that all of us that are on this call do. There may be some who may be laid off now, and if that's the case, use this time wisely. There's a lot of people hiring out there, so go out there and spread your resumes everywhere. It won't take you long to find a job. And when you look at the crisis as being an opportunity for you to not only work, but to grow and discover who you want to be and where you want to go and who you want to go with, then you're going to find that the time that we are in the situation of, or in any crisis, when you stop and reflect and figure it out where you want to be, where you want to go, who you want to go with, the time will pass by, and before you know it, you'll be back in that positive space. And you'll be on the other side of the craziness. And you'll be able to make a plan that will help you to propel to the next level. So I believe we're at about 11:34. So I want to stop and just make sure that no one has anything that they need. Let me put my little, let's see if I can get my, there we go. Let's start my video back up again. Well, I appreciate you all taking the time to be here with us. And I did want to leave you with one last thing. And that was this quote that I absolutely love from Abraham Lincoln. And he said, "We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or we can rejoice because the thorn bushes have roses." And I think that that's how we have to look at the situation that we're in today, and with the crises and the challenges that we're facing, is that on the other side, we're going to come out stronger and better than ever. So thank you for joining today. Look forward to seeing y'all all next week, and have a great day.